Peggy's Place. I'm your host today, Leanne Lindsay, and we are live on YouTube for today's show. We've got a very important guest lined up to be with us today. He is with Peta, and they have filed a cruelty to animals charges for an accused Hopkins fire starter. And we in KGUA are located at the southern tip of Mendocino on the coast. And this was a fire inland by Ukiah at Lake Mendocino. And we will be talking with Colin Hinstock, the PETA's Assistant Manager of Investigations, shortly, and he's going to bring us up to date on what has happened with this. And first, though, of course, we're going to give you some local announcements and get into Peggy's Place. And RCMS, again, as we have been mentioning, will be offering all 3 COVID vaccines and Pfizer boosters today, Mondays and Fridays, today 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. at their main clinic screening house up here on Ocean Drive above us, above the Cypress Village. No appointment is needed, walk-in only. Patients should bring their vaccine card. So that is today 11 to 5. The Thespians, the Sea Ranch Thespians, have announced that they are going to hold auditions for their 2022 productions on November the 14th at 1 p.m. at the Del Mar Hall at the Sea Ranch. And we'll be telling you more about that in the coming days. For more information, you can contact Carol Emery at mcn.org or 707-785-2548. Again, more information about that coming shortly. And then as far as farmers markets, that's up in Point Arena today from 3 to 6 p.m. And then ours will be here in Walala tomorrow at the community center from 9:30 to 12:30 p.m. And then we have lots of art openings that are happening here in the area. And starting with the one that is at it's called North Coast Live, and it's right here in the Dolphin Gallery. And it's featuring the artwork of Chris Grisano and Paula Haymond. And then on Saturday as well from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. And by the way, the one at the Dolphin Gallery is going to be 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. And that's going to be running October 9th to the 21st. And then we have up in the Sea Ranch at the Linden Design Gallery, we have Sarah Waldron, who is going to be doing some small oil paintings. She's an old friend of the Lindens, and she used to live here and now lives up in Oregon. And they're going to be featuring those small oil paintings on from October 9th to the 16th. And the gallery is open from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. right next to the wine shop with Wendy Van Dyke. So you can stop in to have a little art and wine there from 11 to 4. Music up at Annapolis Winery with Jim and Sharon Lieberman, Bards of a Feather. They are going to be playing from 1 to 4:30 p.m. and that is free. On Sunday, there is chamber music at the Walala Arts Center, and that is going to be Trio Celeste out in the amphitheater at 2 o'clock. So take a look at that. And then we too are still working very hard behind the scenes on our Ocean Life Symposium. It's the 3rd annual Ocean Life Symposium that's going to be virtual. We are going to simulcast to YouTube. This is being brought to you by Mendocino Whale and Seal Study and your friends here at KGUA. They've got about 20 speakers from around the country and locally lined up to tell us about the state of our oceans and the inhabitants within them. And we are so looking forward to having all these wonderful speakers here with us. And now we are going to now turn to our show for today here on Peggy's Place. And we are going to welcome now Colin Hinstock. He's the PETA's Assistant Manager of Investigations, and he's going to talk to us about this letter that they've sent to Mendocino County District Attorney David Eyster, asking that he add cruelty to animal charges to those that Devin Lamar Johnson currently faces for allegedly igniting the Hopkins fire, which ravaged more than 250 acres, leveled dozens of homes, killing birds, cats, and dogs left inside, and undoubtedly causing countless other animals to burn. to death. And I personally covered the fire that happened over in Paradise regarding the rescue of dogs and animals with a bunch of the organizations there that were helping to find the animals. So I welcome you, Colin, to the show, and I'm looking forward to hearing more from you. Good morning.
Thank you very much for having me.
So why don't you bring us up to date on what has been happening and a little bit about the organization PETA with whom you are involved?
Well, given that Devin Johnson allegedly started the wildfire that caused the agonizing deaths of animals, PETA is asking the Mendocino County District Attorney to add cruelty to animals charges to those he already faces in order to seek some small measure of justice for the animals killed in this fire, and to really remind the public that humans are responsible for protecting animal habitats from preventable destruction.
And you have done this before in another situation where you have had some success. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, PETA's been paying more attention to wildfires in the western states, and it's certainly an issue that's not going to go away anytime soon, unfortunately.
We know that.
And last year, we made a similar request to the Jackson County District Attorney in Oregon regarding the alleged arsonist who started the Almeda fire there. And he was then charged for the deaths of 8 animals who were killed in the fire.
And with this fire, there are a lot of any fire, it does affect so many animals. As a horse owner, I know from the whole horse community, there's Cowboy 911. There are lots of organizations that get together to help transport livestock from horses to cattle to pigs. And so we're talking a wide range of animals and birds. And so this is important for us to understand when it comes to those individuals who have set fires, allegedly in this case still, and he is still he's being held at the Ukiah County Jail there, and his name is Devin Lamar Johnson, a 20-year-old Black man that started this fire back in the middle of September. And so when was it that you filed, or PETA filed, this letter again to the district attorney there?
We sent the letter last week, so it's still very early in our request. We do hope that the Mendocino County District Attorney's Office will thoroughly review any instances of domesticated animals who were injured or killed in homes struck by the fire, as well as review any wild animals who are documented by firefighters or wildlife rehabilitators as having been injured or killed as well, and file appropriate criminal charges for every animal.
So what are the next steps that will happen from here?
Well, that's really up to the district attorney's office. In a similar case in Shasta County, the district attorney there recently solicited Shasta County residents to send any occurrences of their domestic animals who had been killed in the Zog fire, which they are charging Pacific Gas and Electric for having caused. And they received reports of animals who were killed in that fire. And they actually did recently file a charging document against PG&E for causing the deaths of those animals there. So we hope to see similar actions taken by the Mendocino County District Attorney.
Yes, and there was a fire back in 2017 in the same area. In fact, my family has property there in Redwood Valley, and it was affected by the fire. It came over from the 101 grade, they call it, coming down from Willits, and it went over Ridgewood Ranch and then up over towards our property. And that was one that was that they discovered was caused by PG&E as well. And I know that this really, as we all know, affects so many different types of wildlife. And I saw that there was one that you guys covered down in Southern California near Malibu that there was a giraffe caught in a holding pen, that there was a safari tour there that had this giraffe on display to bring in tourists. I wonder whatever happened to Stanley, was his name, the giraffe. I'd like to find that out if you know, or we can find out later. Do you know anything about that?
I don't have info on him, unfortunately, but you're right. It's really untold numbers of animals and varieties of species are really at risk of dying in wildfires, especially as our climate becomes warmer. In early 2020, a University of Sydney professor estimated that over 1 billion animals might have perished in the fires in Australia that year. And then afterwards, animals who survive can die from starvation, dehydration, loss of all of their habitat. So these fires are unfortunately increasingly common, and they are really likely to hasten the extinction process for a wide range of species.
I remember seeing some of the articles and stories on the koala bears, among all the other wildlife there in Australia that had been affected. And having covered this story too for the Paradise Fire, I ended up talking to lots of veterinary hospitals and organizations that rescue and help place animals. I mean, there's a whole range of how these animals, like cats and dogs, their burned paws and other ways that they're affected with their vision and their lungs from inhaling the smoke. So it can be, and I know, in fact, a friend that also has a horse in the same stables. Her horse was the lungs were affected, and another friend too, her horse's lungs were affected. So it's important to learn what actions your organization can take. So why don't you tell our audience a little bit about PETA as an organization and a little bit about your background too?
Well, PETA has been around for over 40 years, and we advocate for animal rights in a wide variety of ways, whether by conducting undercover investigations, helping community animals in indigent communities in southeastern Virginia and northeastern North Carolina. We really do cover just a broad spectrum of actions, and this is something that we've kind of recently begun looking at a lot closer, is the wildfire issue in the West. And we're going to continue pushing for appropriate criminal charges every time one of these fires happens. And we will keep doing that until the day we no longer have to. And it's just kind of automatically carried out by the district attorneys.
And how did you get involved with PETA?
Well, I grew up in a very rural community and in North Carolina. And I remember at a young age, I was exposed to some of the factory farm practices that were going on in my community, chicken farms and large dairies and things like that. And just kind of realized that the kind of industry standard in animal agriculture is extremely cruel. And from then I went vegan, did an internship at an animal sanctuary, and then was hired on in New York State. And then had the opportunity to join PETA's Cruelty Investigations Department. And I've been here about 8 years now. I work with our undercover investigators to document primarily animal ag industries, but also labs, roadside zoos, circuses, really anywhere where animals are used and abused. And I also speak with whistleblowers on a very regular basis from animal agriculture industries who are contacting PETA with concerns about what they're seeing, and they're having their complaints to management ignored. And we try to see what we can do in those situations to either alert law enforcement or increase pressure on the companies to make the appropriate changes.
Well, if you're just tuning in, you are listening to Colin Hinstock. He's PETA's Assistant Manager of Investigations, and we're talking about cruelty to animals charges that were filed for the Hopkins fire that was over by Lake Mendocino near Ukiah. And that was back in middle of September. They have placed this letter to the district attorney about a week ago, and they're moving forward with these charges against a young 20-year-old man who set that fire allegedly, Devin Lamar Johnson, who is being held in the Ukiah County Jail. And I'm Leanne Lindsay, your host today on Peggy's Place. This is KGUA in Wallala on the southern tip of Mendocino County. And we are at 88.3 FM. We stream online live at kgua.org and on apps Radio Garden and TuneIn. And you can see us live on YouTube right now as well. And that will remain there for watching later, so you can catch up and hear more from Colin. And Colin, how can people get in touch with you or the organization? How can the public get involved or help on this, or any of the other actions you were just talking about?
Well, I think we would really urge the public to think about the larger picture of climate change and how that affects the increasing risk of wildfires. And we urge everyone to do something that experts really agree will truly mitigate climate change, and that is to go vegan. Raising and killing animals for food and clothing produces more greenhouse gas emissions than all forms of transportation combined. That's cars, planes, everything. So anyone who truly wants to help animals and the environment can visit Peta.org and order a free vegan starter kit.
And speaking of climate change too, there's a lot of ways people can help on that as well, in a variety of ways, just small ways. And we have this, I was just saying at the beginning in the announcements that we've got this Ocean Life Symposium coming up. And part of that conference, speakers are going to be talking about how climate change has affected the migration patterns of the sea life, whale migration patterns, and so much more. You know, the plants that grow in the ocean and the different kinds of species that feed on the kelp or whatever that is growing in the oceans and how that affects it. So what are some of the ways, as far as when it comes to wildfires, and this particular one that you have filed this petition to the district attorney, what is it that people could do to help with that? Is there anything that people could help with that?
Well, I think right now the ball is really in the hands of the Mendocino County District Attorney, and we hope that they do carry out a thorough review. And, I hope that they realize that killing a single animal by lighting them on fire or suffocating them to death with smoke is cruel and illegal. And if it was done to an individual dog or cat, the public would be rightfully outraged and felony charges would likely be filed. The animals killed in this fire, both the domesticated animals and the wild animals, felt, the agony of burning alive or suffocating to death. So we urge the district attorney to file charges, because these animals do deserve the same protection under the law that an individual animal would.
Can they send a letter or a petition to any of the, let's say, politicians who might have an influence on that?
That could certainly help, and if anyone knows of any animals who actually were killed in this fire, I think that contacting the Mendocino County authorities would certainly be helpful.
Well, I brought up a giraffe earlier because we have an animal preserve right up here in Point Arena, where they have several giraffe and zebra and antelope. So there's, this affects so many more than what some people may first assume. It's not just all about the humans, which we are very concerned about, first of all, but it does affect so much in our, that live in our community. So what steps do you personally take in your position as the assistant manager of this investigation?
Well, in this, our senior evidence analyst is keeping a close eye on the news and social media. And we have seen reports of domesticated birds and dogs and cats who were killed or injured in this fire. And we're going to stay on top of monitoring everything that we can monitor and pass any relevant information along to the authorities to keep up the pressure on them to actually file these charges.
What are some of the challenges that you face when you file these charges?
Well, I think that animals killed in these wildfires may be lost in the bigger picture of these tragedies. But, these animals were individuals who suffered, a terrifying and horrific death, and they deserve the same protection under the law and some small measure of justice. So I do think, as the results in Oregon last year showed, I do think prosecutors are open to these sorts of requests, and I think that you will see them considering these charges more so in the future. But we will keep pushing for them, as long as we have to.
And where do you do your work from? Where are you calling us in from right now, as a matter of fact?
I'm based in Norfolk, Virginia. This is our headquarters here. I've been working from home since the start of COVID. We're very fortunate to be able to do that.
Yes, so are my son and daughter-in-law too, and a lot of other people who've been able to work from home. And PETA is a national organization again. And how could people contact PETA if they have more questions or information?
If you have any sort of questions or information, you're welcome to visit us at peta.org. And there's a form there that you can fill out that will go to our Cruelty Investigations Department. You can also email us at cidinfo@peta.org.
Okay, say those again one more time.
It's cidinfo@peta.org. That's the Cruelty Investigations Department.
Great, great, because this is something I had never really heard about before, as far as these kinds of charges, and especially when it's caused either by an individual or an entity. And that was one of my first questions was, I see that you've gone after a couple of individuals, but what about organizations? And organizations are, like PG&E, it's a lot harder to go after. Can you tell us some of the differences there?
Well, we'll continue to urge prosecutors to add cruelty to animals charges to any person who's responsible for a wildfire, but we're also going to continue to urge them to add charges against any companies as well. And authorities can absolutely charge companies in these instances. And as Shasta County did in late September, the district attorney there included several domesticated animals in a charge against Pacific Gas and Electric for recklessly causing the fire to a property of another, I believe is the charge. So it's not exactly cruelty to animals charges in that instance, but they were included in the charges. And authorities can absolutely charge the companies for cruelty to animals as well.
And so, Colin, you're in charge of this investigation. Do you have other ongoing investigations that you juggle and work with at the same time?
Well, we're always very active. There's unfortunately no shortage of cruelty to animals that is out there and needs a light shined on it, and that's what my department is really tasked with. Lately, we have documented abuse to turkeys at a so-called humane company in Pennsylvania called Plainville Farms. We have field investigators who are in the field, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, who are out there documenting abuse and cruelty to animals. And as long as that's going on, we're going to be there to document it and to show the public that it's happening.
Yes, it happens to horses as well. I've seen a lot of organizations who help to rescue and rehabilitate horses and get them placed. And I was part of a group that actually helped rescue a few horses from kill pens in Texas. And we did that this last October, September timeframe. So
Wow.
we've, we can all do a little bit here and there. We can help, and we can shine a light as a public media station. We can bring this information to the public, and we can discover ways that we can get involved. And that's one of the reasons I'm glad that you could come on the show today.
Well, thank you very much for having me, and thank you for your work down in Texas. That's amazing.
I was glad to be part of it. A woman that has a big ranch down in Bodega Bay coordinated it with a filmmaker, Ashley Avis, who did the recent Black Beauty movie. And she's now working on a documentary about the treatment of wild Mustangs. And so that's going to be coming out in 2022 by filmmaker Ashley Avis. So some of the, everybody's doing a little bit of their own part to help in each way that they can.
Absolutely.
That's Colin Hinstock, Peta's Assistant Manager of Investigations, and this is regarding specifically the Hopkins fire that was started this past September up by Lake Mendocino. Thank you so much for joining us today on Peggy's Place.
Thank you so much for having me.
And you're welcome to come back and give us an update.
All right.
All right. Take care. And I'm